You're not gonna believe what just happened to me today. I walked into the lobby of my own building. Yes, the one I actually owned, just to check in on some maintenance work. When suddenly, this woman from the HOA, who had clearly decided she ruled the entire universe, came charging at me like I didn't belong there. She had that energy, you know, the kind of loud voice, arms crossed, eyes narrowing like she'd just caught someone stealing Amazon packages. And without asking a single question, she told me I was trespassing. In my own building, now I try to stay calm in situations like this, but this lady, let's just call her Karen, took things to a whole new level. She didn't recognize me at all, and instead of asking who I was, she just assumed. Within minutes, she was threatening to report me, calling building security, and even said, "You're fired." Fired from a place I literally signed the paychecks for. Can you imagine the nerve? She said it with her whole chest, too, like she was doing the world a favor. At first, I was stunned. I didn't even get a word in before she started going off about rules, unauthorized entry, and how I was lucky she didn't call the cops. The front desk guy looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. It was clear nobody wanted to challenge her, until I finally opened my mouth and told her who I actually was. But right before I could even get to the part where I dropped the truth, something happened that flipped the entire situation on its head. That's when the real chaos started down. Let's just say the look on her face when she found out who I really was. Priceless. Stick around because it only gets crazier from here. So while Karen was still going off about policies and how she doesn't tolerate strangers loitering in the lobby, I took a step back and just let her rant. Honestly, I wanted to see how far she'd take it. She was waving around this clipboard, pointing at rules like she memorized them all just to feel important. She even told the security guy, who, by the way, has worked for me for over a year, that if he didn't escort me out, he might be next. The poor guy kept glancing between us, clearly uncomfortable but too scared to say anything. Now here's the thinkerins new, like, just moved in a couple weeks ago, new. And ever since she got voted into the HOA board, she's been acting like she owns the entire property. She's already annoyed half the residents with new rules about where to park, how long guests can stay, even trying to change pet policies. People have been whispering about her in the elevators, saying she's power tripping big time. I've been hearing complaints, but I wanted to give her a chance before stepping in. And today? Well, today gave me all the answers I needed. What Karen didn't know was that not only do I own the building, but I've actually been living in the penthouse on and off for the last few years. I usually stay pretty low-key, let the property managers handle the day-to-day, but I still come by when I want to check on things myself. And today just happened to be one of those days. But the moment that really sealed it. She told me I'd better leave before she calls the building owner. I wish I could describe the silence that followed. You could literally feel the tension in the air. But instead of revealing anything right then, I smiled and said nothing. Karen stood there, completely unaware that she was digging herself deeper. She turned to the security guy again, more aggressive this time, telling him that if he didn't remove me immediately, she'd report him to the HOA board. I could see him sweating. His name's Louis, solid guy. Been loyal since day one. He kept glancing at me like he wanted to say something but couldn't. That's when I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. Karen wasn't just being rude, she was straight up abusing her new role, and people were too afraid to stand up to her. Meanwhile, a couple residents had walked into the lobby and slowed down, watching the scene unfold. One of them, Ms. Greer, she's been here for over a decade, looked at me and then back at Karen, clearly confused. She knows exactly who I am. Her eyes widened, but she didn't say a word. Karen didn't even notice. She was too busy pulling out her phone, probably about to fire off an email or snap a photo as evidence. The level of control she thought she had was wild. Then, just to escalate things further, Karen started ranting about how these types always think they can slip past the rules. I don't even know what she meant by that, but it rubbed me, and everyone else, the wrong way. The room went quiet. Louise froze. Even Ms. Greer took a step back. Karen clearly didn't realize the weight of her words. Maybe she did, just worse. At that point, I knew I couldn't just let it slide anymore. But still, I didn't reveal who I was. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she would push this boundary. Because this wasn't just about a power trip anymore. This was about her thinking she could walk into my building, throw around threats, and belittle people who actually care about the place. And the more she talked, the more I realized. Karen was about to learn a lesson she wouldn't forget. The tension in the lobby was thick enough to cut with a knife. Karen was still going on, completely oblivious to how much she was digging herself into a hole. Her voice was rising, echoing off the marble walls as she rattled off more rules she claimed I was breaking. The security guard, Luis, looked caught. In the middle, clearly uncomfortable, but stuck between his loyalty to me and fear of Karen's wrath. The other residents had stopped what they were doing, their eyes darting between Karen and me, whispering quietly. You could tell the whole building was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Karen's phone was still out, fingers hovering over the screen like she was about to make her move, calling the HOA board, maybe even the police. I could almost see the smirk on her face, like she thought she was about to win some big battle. But what she didn't know was that this moment was about to flip everything upside down. Then came the part that made everyone's hearts skip a beat. Karen said something about how no one here was above the rules, especially those pretending to be in charge. The way she said it felt personal, like she had some grudge she wanted to settle. Everyone's eyes went wide. I caught a glimpse of the front desk clerk shifting nervously behind the counter. And even Ms. Greer looked like she wanted to speak. But was holding back. My mind raced. Do I reveal who I am now and shut this down? Or let her keep digging so the fallout hits harder? The lobby felt frozen, every second stretching out. Karen's confidence was at its peak, but I knew it wouldn't last long. The moment before the storm. That instant, right before everything breaks, this was it. I took a slow breath, ready to drop the truth that would change everything. But just then, Karen's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and the color drained. From her face, whatever message she read, it shook her more than anything I'd said so far. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath again, waiting for what would come next. Karen's face went pale as she stared at her phone, her confident mask slipping for the first time. She took a shaky breath and glanced up at me, eyes darting nervously around the lobby like she was suddenly seeing the room for the first time. Then, without warning, she blurted out, "You're not the only one with secrets here." The words hung in the air, heavier than anything she'd said before. I blinked, caught off guard. What was she talking about? Before I could respond, the front desk clerk quietly stepped forward, holding out another phone. "You might want to see this," he said, voice low but urgent. Karen snatched it and swiped the screen, her expression twisting from shock to fear. The message was from the HOA board apparently. A serious complaint had just been filed against Karen herself. Someone had sent them photos and messages exposing her questionable behavior over the last few weeks. Breaking rules, she was supposed to enforce, ignoring safety concerns, even manipulating votes to gain power. Suddenly, the whole power dynamic shifted. Karen, who had been trying to boss everyone around, was now the one under scrutiny. But here's the kicker: those complaints came from multiple residents, some of whom I hadn't even met yet. It was like the entire building was quietly rallying behind me, waiting for the right moment to push back. But the tension didn't ease. Karen's eyes flicked back to me, and in that moment, I realized she wasn't just scared, she was desperate. Her threats turned to pleas as she tried to bargain, saying she was just trying to do what's best for the community. But no one was buying it anymore, and just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense, Luis, the security guard, cleared his throat and said something that stunned us all. "There's one more thing. I found something in the security footage you should see." Everyone's heads turned toward the monitor behind the desk, and the lobby fell silent again. Whatever was coming next was going to change everything. Luis hit play on the security monitor, and everyone's eyes locked on the screen. The footage showed Karen in the lobby late at night, way past curfew, talking with someone nobody recognized. She was handing over what looked like official documents, but the way she did it seemed ... off. Then, she was seen sneaking into a restricted area of the building, the one only the owner and trusted staff could access. The clip froze on her face, and murmurs spread through the crowd. That moment changed everything. The woman who had acted like the queen of the building was clearly overstepping boundaries, and maybe hiding something much bigger. The HOA board had good reason to question her, and now everyone knew it. Karen's confident smirk vanished. Instead, she looked small, cornered, and desperate. I finally spoke up, my voice steady but firm. "This building isn't just a place to throw around power. It's a community, and it deserves respect from everyone, including the HOA. I explained who I was, the owner, the person responsible for keeping this place safe and welcoming. The residents nodded, relief and approval mixing in the air. Karen's words had lost their weight as the board called to confirm the complaints. Karen packed up her things, realizing her time here was over. But just when it seemed like the drama had ended, Luis turned to me quietly. "There's one more thing," he said, sliding a sealed envelope across the counter. Inside were letters from previous owners of Edens that a hidden clause in the building's deed gave the owner not just control over the property, but the power to override the HOA in extreme cases. The twist: that clause had never been enforced before. Until now, with that knowledge, I knew I could protect this community from anyone trying to abuse power. Karen's reign was over, but the real work was just beginning. The building was mine, but the people living here made it a home, and together, we'd make sure it stayed that way. After Karen left, the atmosphere in the lobby shifted completely. What had started as a tense showdown turned into a moment of relief and hope for everyone there. The residents came up to me, thanking me quietly for stepping in even if they hadn't known exactly who I was before today. It was clear they were tired of the constant drama and power plays from the HOA, and they wanted someone who genuinely cared to take charge. I spent the next few days meeting with the building manager and residents, listening to their concerns and ideas. It became clear that the community deserved better leadership, one that listens, respects the rules, and works for the good of everyone. The hidden clause in the deed gave me the legal backing to make changes, but what really mattered was earning the trust of the people who call this place home. Looking back, this whole ordeal was a wake-up call. It showed how easily power can be abused, especially when people forget that rules are meant to protect, not control. Karen's attitude wasn't just about enforcing policies. It was about trying to dominate a community that didn't belong to her. But in the end, it was the unity and voices of the residents that made the real difference. This experience also reminded me why I wanted to own this building in the first place: to create a safe, welcoming space where people can live without fear or frustration. That's the kind of environment I'm committed to building moving forward. So, if you ever find yourself facing a Karen who thinks they run the place, remember, sometimes the real power lies in standing up, knowing your rights, and staying calm. Because instant karma has a way of catching up. When it does, it's the truth and community that always win. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned for more stories about life, people, and unexpected moments that change everything.